Hi, I'm Laura Rolfe, host of Powered by Franchising and CEO of Mint Franchise Consultants. I love connecting with others in the franchise community, particularly those who have experience in franchising, that they've leaned into their past experience in the corporate world. So today I want to welcome Rich Bruno. He is a keynote speaker, executive coach, and business consultant. He is the owner of his own consulting firm and has leveraged more than 30 years of supply chain leadership, 12 years of successful business ownership in a franchise organization, and he continues to coach a wide variety of clients. This enables him to really make an impact on C-suite leaders and other organizations to really build and grow a successful business. Rich, welcome to the show.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be on the show.
Well, I loved connecting with you on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a powerful tool to reach out and connect with other individuals in the franchise space and beyond. So why don't you give our listeners a little bit of your background about your corporate background and what led you into franchising?
Sure. I was fortunate enough to be a supply chain leader for over 30 years with three Fortune 50 companies, the last one being Johnson & Johnson for the last 16 years of my career. And around 7 years before I ended up leaving corporate America, I ended up venturing into entrepreneurship. And it really was driven by passion. I was a member of a health and fitness franchise program, or one that was about to be franchised. And I saw the power of this program for mental and physical well-being. And my first thought was, so many people need this. So it was purely a passion play. I literally jumped in with both feet. Honestly, didn't really know the extent of what I was getting into because I had never been a business owner. So I jump right in. I jump on the franchising bandwagon to be a franchisee while I have my corporate career going, while I'm raising three small children with my wife. Very heavy lift. But I will tell you that I have no regrets. It was been an amazing experience for me. I did it for 12 years. So as I go through the chronology of my career, supply chain leadership career, just really blessed to lead so many great people, build so many great relationships. And I've had such tremendous success in that space. And I took that and I really leveraged it in the entrepreneurial space. And we'll talk more about all the different skills you need and all that. But getting into franchising really was a passion of mine in this health and fitness space. And I ended up building three unit locations over the course of the 12 years. And about 7 years into this concurrent corporate supply chain and entrepreneurship, I decided to retire from my corporate job. And I'll tell you, that was a very intentional decision. It was a quality of life decision, and it's something I have absolutely no regrets on. I just was racing through everything, and as much as I was an invested dad and husband, I just didn't get the value from it. So I decided to retire, completely bet on myself, lean in all on entrepreneurship, and it's been a great journey. About 3 months after retiring, I decided to get certified as a John Maxwell coach, speaker, and trainer, and started coaching and consulting about 6 years ago. And here I am today.
Well, excellent. So I know a lot of our listeners, they have that W-2 corporate job. It kind of has the golden handcuffs, and they're looking at semi-absentee ownership. And there are some in the fitness space, home services, lots of different industries that do allow for that semi-involved ownership. Can you walk our viewers, our listeners through how you balanced a corporate career while building and scaling a 3-unit franchise system?
Great question. And I will tell you, first and foremost, as you know, this is not a hobby. When you get into business, it's all about, building that business and betting on yourself. And it's a tremendous responsibility, not to be taken lightly. I was a very active owner operator. Okay, it may seem that because I had the corporate career and a very demanding role at Johnson & Johnson, I was a very active owner operator. I think that's a really big point to make, especially in a service-oriented business. You need to be connected to your customer and really present for your team. And you need to set an example and build a culture. And I was only able to do that by being very actively involved. So my day-to-day lifestyle for 7 years was waking up at 3:30, teaching a 5 a.m. class, taking a 6 a.m. class, greeting the 7 a.m. members who came in, driving to work, doing my full day gig, coming home at night, family, back to work, repeat the grind, rinse and repeat 5 days a week. I did that for 7 years. And it was a very, very heavy lift, hence the quality of life decision to retire. Literally, it was 2 weeks after I turned 55 that I retired.
Well, definitely, you must have had a very supportive wife and family to allow you the opportunity to have that kind of grind. So I do like the fact that you share that you do have to be very intentional, and business ownership, you can't do it through osmosis. You do have to be involved in the culture of your business, being there not only for your customers or your clients, but also for your team members, because they
Yes,
see you as the face and driving the business for their success as well.
absolutely.
So how did things change for you once you left corporate America? You retired at 55, and then you made the transition to be a speaker and a business coach.
So I look at it as in stages of simplification. So it changed dramatically. It was incredibly liberating. Just getting time back was incredibly powerful. And so that's why I feel like total conviction, no regrets. But on the flip side, I was now betting on myself, right? I had to make sure that it worked. And ironically, I retired in May of 2019. In March of 2020, when COVID hit, gyms in New Jersey were shut down, like completely shut down. So I had to endure 6 months of complete shutdown and then followed by 9 months of severe restrictions inside the fitness center. So it took a lot for me to withstand that. You have to overcome a ton of adversity. You've got to be able to pivot and make quick decisions. So my life changed quite a bit very early on after retirement, but great learning experiences. Fortunately, I was very successful coming through that with both of the locations I had at the time. And the coaching and consulting has evolved. So the stages are the concurrent corporate career and entrepreneurship, drop the corporate career, entrepreneurship, and coaching and consulting. Then I started to wean away from the fitness franchise entrepreneurship. My wife was running day-to-day operations, and I got more fully invested in coaching and consulting. And that's what I'm doing now exclusively. Our last unit was sold last December. And I'm happy to say I was able to very successfully start up, scale, and sell profitably three units.
Well, congratulations on the growth and scaling of your 3 locations, and then successfully having an exit plan. I think that's really important too for franchisees to look at that exit strategy. So what do you think differentiates successful franchisees from those who struggle?
Well, without a doubt, this is not a passion play. It's very important to be passionate, especially for me, in anything you do. And I always recommend that. But it's not enough. Passion is absolutely not enough. You need to have the right set of skills and the right mindset. So, in a little more detail, set of skills. I've found this a lot with differentiating franchisees, right? So, you need a diverse set of skills to be successful in business ownership. It can't just be, I understand the industry or have one functional skill. You need a broad set of skills: leadership, customer focus, business acumen, hiring the right people, developing culture. A lot of those get embedded in leadership, but you can see a wide variety of skills are needed to be successful in entrepreneurship. And secondly, mindset. Like I said earlier, you're betting on yourself. You've got to have a lot of grit and perseverance. I tell anyone that goes into business, beyond doing their due diligence, it's going to take more than you think it's going to take. Absolutely 100%. And that's not something to run from. You run toward that if you're really passionate about it, but be prepared to do whatever it takes to be successful and be adaptable and be willing or able to overcome adversity. If you could do those things, skills, mindset, that differentiates the really rock star franchisees from the ones that may struggle. And I think the active owner operator piece is also very important.
Absolutely. So thanks for sharing your insights. When I talk to clients, particularly if they're looking at semi-involved ownership where they're going to work in the gym early morning, go do a day job, and then may go back into the business in the evenings. It's going to take grit, perseverance, and the support of your family. If you can follow a system with your corporate career, if you've been very successful in your corporate career, you can follow systems, and a lot of those skill sets that you have utilized in advancing your business, your W-2 job, those are going to be very important to your success in business as well. And you're going to have the support of the franchisor throughout the process. But the franchisor is not going to be there day to day guiding you. They're going to help you understand KPIs. They may give you some guidance on best practices for hiring employees. They're certainly going to help with supply chain management. You have that experience and expertise in your corporate world, so that I'm sure helped you. So they're going to help you a lot. So being in business for yourself but not by yourself is definitely, gives you a little bit of an edge, but it's still business ownership, and business ownership takes hard work, grit, and a little bit of grind.
Yes, without a doubt.
So what are some of the, now that you're a coach, are you coaching? Tell our listeners a little bit about your coaching practices and how you help business owners build and scale a business and maybe overcome some of the challenges, and give us an example or two of how you've done that.
Sure. So I focus on executive coaching, trainings like leadership trainings and workshops. I also prepare content, webinars for franchisors and franchisees. You can find that on my website in the franchise development tab. But the ways that I specifically work with, I'll call them clients, customers, right, is to first, I want to make sure that I can go through a discovery and understand what their real needs are, right? So if it's a business owner, let's just say it's a business owner. They may be struggling to get their nose out of the grind, work on the business versus work in the business. That's a very typical roadblock that I find with business owners. They are not following the money, extremely important, just that one point alone, right? There's this 10 essential questions for business growth that I have. The first one is follow the money. So if I'm working with a business owner, I want to make sure that they understand their P&L. They know what profitability looks like and can achieve their goals and manage cash flow, et cetera, et cetera. But then it also comes down to the division of work, right? A lot of times business owners are wearing a lot of hats, right? So, but what are they really supposed to be focusing on to drive the growth of the business? And then deprioritize or push down the lower value added work to other people on their team. And a lot of owners just don't have those skills. They don't have the business acumen. They don't know how to communicate and delegate. They're not building a culture. They're not customer focused necessarily, and they don't get out into the community to build their business. So anyone that's a business owner, obviously you want to drive success and scale your business. The only way to do it is to make sure you're working on the right things and building your business in the right way where you could provide a service that someone's willing to pay for. So working with business owners, we break all of that down. Working with executives, a lot of times what I find is they do not delegate the work. They try to do everything, and they're not focusing on developing and empowering their team members. So I work with them on things like organizational structure, hiring and staffing, leading them so that they're utilizing their time in the best way possible, right? Making sure they're focused on the most important things, making choices, saying no, not doing everything, right? And then I'll work with the teams on building the culture, documenting processes for, workflows, making sure everyone knows their roles and responsibilities. And I get a lot of that. I'm really grateful that I got a lot of that from my supply chain leadership experiences that I've had with fantastic organizations.
And great advice for your clients that have the benefit of working with you. How long do people typically contract and partner with you to help move and make some changes in their business?
So when I'm working with an individual client, not an organization, it's typically a 6 to 9 month duration. But that's really driven by me estimating the scope of work and the time it will take to really drive. We identify the goals and what goal results we want to drive. When it's organizations, it could typically be a year or more. When I worked with a logistics company in 2023, it was a 15-month assignment, to give you an example. And that was everything from standing up the organization, right, structurally, working on their executive leadership team, their executive meetings, their retreats and goal setting initiatives, strategic planning, all of those kinds of bigger initiatives. So you would understand that obviously those kinds of engagements would be more lengthy.
So, what is one small shift that a business owner could make to today that would help them in their leadership and work-life balance?
Oh boy, do I love that question. Thank you for asking that. So the first thing I would suggest doing is make a list. Make a list of everything that you think you should be working on or that you are working on. And I typically use a tool from John Maxwell called the Law of Priorities, and I help them to break down really by a ranking system, numerical scoring, what are the most important things for them to be working on. So it immediately breaks down, you have to do everything. What are the most important things to do? So make a list of everything you think you should be doing, the things that you can delegate or lower value activities that you don't really need to invest your time in, offload them, deprioritize them. You will find that you will get time back and that will create balance for you. The other thing I would say is, and this is a trap for so many people, I also work with a lot of one-on-one clients, creating boundaries. I think that's extremely important. If it's important for you to work out in the morning, you need to put that in your calendar and block it out. Self-care is critically important, right? So that's one. If you want to set boundaries for the evening where you don't want to be working into the evening and not seeing your kids before bed or having that date night with your wife, you need to set boundaries to cut off the work. It takes choices and discipline. It is absolutely possible. Many people don't decide to make those choices. And that's unfortunate, but those are easy ways to get time back and better balance.
Yeah, I love the fact that you can't do it all. And so I had a coach for a bit of time. I worked with them for about 6 months because I wanted to do it all. As a new business owner, I was a solopreneur at the time, and I felt like everything needed my touch or my hand. And so that business coach helped me identify who my teams were that didn't necessarily work for me, but people I could rely on or delegate things. So my technology team that I paid, they were part of my network, and I could delegate some things to them. I could hire a VA to do some of my monotonous tasks like cleaning up a database or making some lower priority phone calls, things that I just wasn't ever getting to. So how do I focus on the top 3 to 5 things that are going to really impact the money? Back to your point at the beginning of the podcast. How am I driving money and revenues for my business, and those lower priority things either somebody else is going to do or they're not going to get done and they're really not that important. And then I love the fact that you've got to block off time too. I like to go to the gym. There's a 1:00 class that I go to 3 days a week during the week, and I block off my calendar, and it better be super important for me to have that time at the gym knocked off my calendar. Because I need a little break in the afternoon to clear my head, and I'm much more focused when I get back into my office. So
That's so wonderful. Good for you.
Great tips. So you also do a lot of speaking, John Maxwell speaking engagements. Talk about some of your keynotes and what people would learn from you if they hired you to do a keynote for them.
So with the keynotes, and I love doing them because I feel like it's another way to influence and add value to others. It's also a great tool for me to get exposure to a broader network of people. So I like it for both of those reasons, but really adding the value is most important. I have 3 in particular that I do, and I've done them in different forms, like Rutgers Business School, right? So I go to universities, or I'll go to and do it virtually on a webinar, or I'll go to a healthcare network in person and do a leadership workshop. So I do building your personal brand, which I think Everyone's got their own personal brand. It's critically important. It talks about things like the power of networking and relationships, how you show up every day, right? And the legacy you want to leave. So that's some of the building your personal brand. I also do exceptional leadership traits that people value and follow. And I think there are so many great leadership traits, but really anchoring in the most important ones and then actioning them are really important. So I do a talk on leadership. And then I also do a talk, and when I say a talk, it's a keynote, and it could also be a workshop. So shorter duration with a workbook where it's really, really interactive. Um, and then the third one I do is on really franchising and business growth.
Well, excellent. So if somebody wanted to investigate or learn more about your keynote speaking or about your business, where would they find you, Rich?
Thank you so much. On my website, richbrunoconsulting.com. If you're specifically focused on franchising, there's a franchise development tab. Otherwise, you can go to my services. The drop down will have a speaking tab, and you'd go to that. It'll have a demo reel. It'll have a media kit. It'll talk about the 3 different talks that I have. And that's where you could learn more. And most importantly, I would say, to me, it always starts with the conversation, right? So I am very highly relationship focused. I'm not going to be for everybody, right? But I truly want to get to know the people that might be interested, to see what their true needs are, see if I can satisfy that need, if I'm the right fit for them, and vice versa. And that starts with a conversation. So there's a free 30-minute Zoom button on the upper right-hand corner of my website. You can just click that, fill out the form, and set up a time for us to meet. And we'll get to know each other first. That's where I start. It's all about getting to know people first, and then we go from there.
Yes, well, your website is very robust. I spent a little bit of time on there before
Yeah.
this podcast today. I liked the Zoom, the information about the key leadership traits, the well-balanced leader model that you share with your clients that you work with. And there's a lot of free resources as well. So if somebody wants to take advantage of the downloading the 10 essential questions to drive your business growth, you can find that on Rich's website. Thank you for providing those services and
Sure.
really helping our listeners if they need some assistance with leadership. And if they want to connect with you, then they can certainly go to your website. So what advice would you give to somebody transitioning from a corporate career into business ownership? Let's say they don't want to be semi-absentee, but they're done with corporate America. I'm getting a lot of those clients right now that they need to break that chain. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I will tell you that I can understand that based on the times today that people are exiting from corporate America voluntarily or not. And it can be a scary thing. The very first thing I would say is, and I actually have something on my franchise development tab I can refer to in a minute that could help in this regard. But the very first thing I would say is do it for the right reasons, right? So I mentioned earlier, passion is not enough. It isn't. It's important, but understand what you're getting into. Do your due diligence. And that includes whether you're investigating a franchise opportunity or a small business ownership, do your homework. Understand the industry, the trends, what resources are required from you, not only people resources, but financially. I think that is a huge trap for small business owners. You can see it all day long in terms of data, right? Many small businesses do not succeed. And it's frequently because they don't resource properly. They don't know how long it's going to take to become profitable, what cash flow looks like for them, right? Not even setting goals to say what would define success for them. And then finally, that exit strategy that we talked about before. So make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. I did it with conviction because I wanted to get time back in my life. But I had something to go to because I did it concurrently, right? But if you're just venturing into small business entrepreneurship, call it, right? There are many things you have to consider. And you have to have the wherewithal and the grit and perseverance and the skills to be able to be successful. So don't jump. Do your homework first.
Yeah, I think that's really critical. That's one of the reasons that I I spend a lot of time with my clients to talk about what is their why. Why do they want to take that leap from corporate America into business ownership? What is their skill set? What are some of the things that they're going to need to lean into for a special extra support from the franchisor? And does the franchisor have the capacity and resources to help you grow in that area? If you've never really been in charge of looking at key performance indicators, as an example, will they educate you on how to do that? Will they help you with people management? And I think if you're going to be in a business that you have employees, you need to have some people management skills that you brought into from your corporate job. And then I like what you said about making sure that you have the right financial resources. There's a client that I'm working with who is so passionate about investing in a particular business, and she and her husband are just shy of the cash liquidity requirements and the net worth requirements. And it's tough conversations that we have to have, that we want you to succeed in business, and we don't want you to get 6 months or 18 months into it and you run out of money and you don't have the financial resources to keep going. Because you got to start with a strong foundation of success to lay that foundation for the future, because you don't know what kind of bumps you're going to hit along the way. And every business does hit bumps along the way. It's not smooth sailing when you sign a franchise agreement and pay your franchise fee and say, oh, we're ready to get started. You've got a build out if it's a brick and mortar. You have staff to hire. You've got to promote your business through networking events, marketing, et cetera. And that all takes time. So you're not going to be cash flow positive for some time. And you have to have some prediction on where that looks like. So also validating with current franchise owners is a huge step. I have a sample list of questions that I share with my clients of some of the things that they might want to ask, because the questions are going to look very different in talking to a franchisee during validation than if you were to interview somebody for a job at a business. You can ask financial questions. You can ask how difficult it is to hire and retain staff. Yes. What keeps you up at night? Would you do it again? Would you buy more? Do you wish you didn't do this? Those kinds of things.
Absolutely.
So any other advice as far as validation for anybody looking at a franchise before they sign on that dotted line and pay their fee to go launch their business?
I think I want to go back to mindset for a minute, not just grit and perseverance. You will face many hurdles, as you mentioned. Overcoming adversity is probably and adaptability are probably two of the greatest traits that you could possess that will help you, or at least give you a better chance at being successful or more successful in any business, right? And I think there are fundamental things that probably come with the build out and startup, right? I mentioned follow the money. Like, you've got to know what kind of staffing needs you have. How do you even assess talent? Are you someone that could bring in the right people? I would say this, if you have the wrong people, I don't care how good the business opportunity looks. That is going to be an absolute disaster. The first thing I always wanted to do was create a culture where I brought in people that had the similar values to me, had the capabilities and desire to learn and grow with me. Hiring the right people absolutely is, you put a bullseye on that. That is so critically important.
Absolutely. So let's go to the lightning round with Rich Bruno.
Okay.
So we'll start with a super easy one. Coffee or tea to start your day?
Definitely coffee.
Okay. And what's the most underrated leadership trait?
I have a few, if you don't mind. I don't want to pick one.
Sure.
So building culture definitely is powerful. Authenticity, relationship building and communications are really, really important, and delegation. I mean, there are probably more, but those are the ones that really stand out to me.
Well, excellent. Favorite book every entrepreneur should read?
I have a few. I will tell you, Start With Why, Simon Sinek, absolutely. Really powerful to really ground yourself in your purpose. I like Who Not How, and that talks about resources that can help you to achieve your goals. A lot of times when you write your goals, it's, what do I need to achieve and how do I do it? Well, who are the people can help you do it? So that's a really great one. And the final one is The One Thing by Gary Keller. That gets you really laser focused on the most important thing.
Well, I will have to pick up the last two. I haven't read those yet. So thank you for the recommendations for me as well.
Yep.
One word your clients would use to describe you, Rich?
I would definitely say relationship focused.
Okay. And what is your go-to activity when you need to recharge?
Just like you, it's the workout. My day is best when I start with a workout.
Excellent. Yeah, it just changes my perspective when I have a good workout. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned from running your franchise?
That you can't be a silent owner. And I was never that. I mentioned to you, a very active owner operator. I think when you scale from one to three, like I did, you need to be a really effective leader where you can replicate the model with other people because you can't do everything. So, an active owner operator, you need to be present and really engaged in what's going on and all over your business from a business metric standpoint.
Did you know you were going to be a multi-unit owner when you invested in your first location?
Absolutely. That was part of my business model. I knew that to really build and scale and be financially successful, you needed volume. And my strategy was to stand up locations that were geographically close enough to me. So I had three locations. All of them were in 15-minute location distances from where I lived. So someone calls me and says, "Oh, I can't teach a class or something happened. I need to get there. I don't want it to be an hour away." Right. So I absolutely planned for 2 to 3 was the model.
Excellent. And how long did it take you to scale to three?
So I wanted to be very deliberate. So it took me a few years. I didn't want to just kind of replicate right away. I wanted to learn how to run a business. I think that's a very important point. Do not race to this. It's not a numbers game. It's make sure you master one, then figure out how to build when it makes sense. So it took me about 2.5 years to get the second one, and the third one came about a year after that, which was actually not expected. It was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. And then a few years later, I realized that trying to run three and having my corporate gig was too much. So I sold one of them to have two.
Excellent. It's always good to know what is was in your capacity physically as well as time wise. So very, very smart exit strategy with that third one.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite motivational quote or mantra, Rich?
Yeah, I think attitude is everything. I just am such a believer in that. How you show up with your mind, that's you're 90% of the way there. I bet on myself, like I said, going into entrepreneurship. I never ever thought about failure as an option. I knew I was going to figure out a way, and that's really powerful. I think just to go in with that, belief system is incredibly important.
Yes, well, I think that is definitely an important cornerstone for success to be all in yourself, have the support of your family to be all in for whatever that looks like, and betting on yourself. And I agree, attitude is everything. Positive attitude. I'm known as Sunshine Laura sometimes because I'm always positive.
That's great.
If you weren't coaching or consulting, what would you be doing?
I think I would want to write a book. I think on entrepreneurship, just because I want to share what I've learned, for other people. So writing a book, it's not at the top of my list, but again, if I had extra time, right? So probably what I do, and definitely spending more time with my family. I am all in through and through a family man. So I would do even more with my kids.
Awesome. Now, what's something that people are surprised to learn about you?
I think the biggest thing probably is right behind me. You probably see this plaque from
I
the New
do.
York City Marathon.
That's awesome.
Um, I ran the New York City Marathon, and 1 month prior, I tore my hamstring,
Ooh,
and I still ran.
wow.
So I had a commitment to a charity, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, a really important charity to a good friend of mine. His son is stricken with it, and there was I wasn't gonna use that as an excuse to get out of it. So I just figured out a way to get some therapy as fast as I could. I did the best I can, I managed through it, and I'm very glad that I did it.
What a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I
Yeah.
spent 12 years working for the Muscular Dystrophy Association and have lots of friends who have have children who've been affected by Duchenne's. So
Yeah. Yeah.
admire your work.
Thank you.
And I did a crazy thing too. I didn't injure my hamstring, but I cycled in a charity event from San Francisco to Los Angeles, which is 525 miles over the course of
Wow.
8 days. So sometimes we got to take risks and we got to do something crazy to support our friends and family
Yes.
impacted
Good for you.
in charity. So it's kind of fun too to say we did something cool. Like kudos to you for running that marathon, that
Me.
New York
Yeah.
marathon.
Oh, I
It's
feel
not
good.
just anything, any marathon.
Yeah, it was amazing. What an incredible experience. But it makes you feel good, like just knowing you did good.
Well, I think you are doing good with helping supporting business owners, sharing your past experience, helping people really advance their business and refine their goals through your leadership. You're developing better leaders of companies and businesses that are going to have a better chance of success and soaring, just like you did.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today, Rich?
No, I mean, I'm just so excited about this chapter that I'm in now. Um, just want to express that. Like, I've always been guided by love what you do, and I absolutely truly love what I do. I've been really blessed throughout my career that I have wonderful opportunities all throughout my career, but I think that I've been very purposeful in terms of choosing the things that really fill me up. And this space that I'm in, the entrepreneurship with the health and fitness space was tremendous, incredibly rewarding. But this space now with consulting, I'm helping individuals, I'm helping people become better leaders, helping organizations to scale and grow. It's just very fulfilling. So just wanted to share that.
Well, if any of our listeners want to get a hold of Rich, learn more about his keynote speaking or consulting services, again, you can find him at richbrunoconsulting.com. Rich, it's been absolutely delightful having you on the show, sharing your experience as an entrepreneur, how you've transitioned away from your corporate career into business ownership and now into consulting to help today's entrepreneurs succeed.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you today.
Well, great to connect with you, and thanks to our listeners for tuning in to Powered by Franchising.